A 10-year-old Jason, a broad smile lighting up his face, declared, "Dad, relax, everything's all right, I fixed it." 2 days later, a panicked, frantic call pierced the quiet. His wife, overwhelmed by a shocking discovery, had unleashed a torrent of terror. "I'll never forget the day my world crumbled," she recounted. "It started like any ordinary Tuesday, mundane and routine. Jason, pretending to do homework, the familiar hum of the coffee maker. Nothing out of place, no warning sign of the impending storm. If I'd known, perhaps I would have acted differently. But some disasters, it seems, are simply unavoidable." She recalled, "I was in the living room scrolling through bills on my laptop when a stark alert flashed. My account balance had plummeted below the minimum threshold. Strangely, the college fund account, overflowing with years of disciplined saving, was more than adequate. Laura and I had vowed that money was untouchable, a sacred commitment to our son's future. We never needed to discuss it, for we both knew the significance of those funds. Or so I believed." She logged into the online banking portal, hoping for an error, a glitch. Banks were notorious for such issues. But the reality hit her like a freight train. The account was zero. Not low balance, but zero. No discernible transactions. She stared at the empty numbers burning into her vision, praying for a cruel joke. No, it wasn't a prank. It wasn't Laura. "I called out her name, my voice trembling," she shared. Silence. I called again, louder this time. Only emptiness answered. She was gone. A suffocating sense of dread had settled in her stomach. In recent weeks, Laura had become distant, unusually meticulous in her getup and excuses for hurried departures. She attributed these behaviors to the stresses of life. Never could she have imagined this. She grabbed her phone, dialing the voicemail. Repeated attempts yielded the same chilling result. Her heart hammered against her ribs, each beat a relentless drum. Jason entered the room, chewing an apple, oblivious to the unfolding chaos. "Where's Mom?" she asked, attempting a calm facade. He shrugged, another bite taken. He needed to leave, she recounted, the word resonating with the sting of a dagger. With trembling hands, she accessed the joint credit card statement. She didn't want to see what she already suspected, but she couldn't stop herself. There it was, luxurious airfare, an extravagant hotel stay, fine dining, a lavish spending spree. Her wife had vanished across the country, squandering the funds meant for their son's future. She tried to maintain composure in front of Jason, but the situation was overwhelming. Her mind spun. How could she? How could she steal from our child, who had absolutely nothing to do with our problems? Yes, they had disagreements, but this was unforgivable. Jason, sensing her anguish, placed a hand on her shoulder. "Dad, it's all right," he said, his smile eerily calm, almost conspiratorial. "I've taken care of it." In that instant, she thought he simply wanted to cheer her up. A child couldn't comprehend the weight of betrayal, the magnitude of loss. To them, it was a simple matter of black and white. Heroes and villains, problems and solutions. She tried to believe it was innocent naivete, but there was something in his tone that felt unsettling, as if he knew more than he let on. Exhausted, she couldn't muster the energy to investigate further. Further calls proved futile. Later, she discovered an empty, oversized suitcase in the closet. The final blow. There was no coming back. Her wife had drained the account, packed her bags, and abandoned the family. Anger surged, wave upon wave, each one more devastating than the last. She wasn't just furious with her wife. She was furious with herself for failing to see the signs, for allowing this devastation to unfold beneath her very nose. Each transaction, each deception, replayed in her mind. Jason, a film of quietude, sat motionless all night, observing me with unblinking composure. When he finally went to sleep, I was left alone in the dark, replaying the past months in a desperate quest for answers. Confidence lay shattered, a gaping void where it once resided, and a wound so profound it threatened to consume me. I yearned to believe that night had brought clarity, a plan for moving forward. But there was only the chilling truth. The woman I loved had chosen herself, leaving no room for reconciliation. What I hadn't realized while submerged in my pain was that Jason had already begun devising a solution, one far beyond my wildest imaginings. The days following Laura's betrayal were a blur, my life on autopilot, propelled by rage, confusion, and a broken heart. Jason, however, seemed unfazed. For a boy of 10, recently abandoned by his mother, his composure was unsettlingly composed. He went to school, completed his homework, played with his Lego bricks as if nothing had changed. I attributed it to a child's capacity for emotional detachment, for processing trauma differently. But Jason wasn't ignoring the situation. He was actively resolving it. Initially, his actions were subtle. I'd catch him frantically typing on his tablet, his brow furrowed, quickly minimizing the screen when I entered the room. I dismissed it as his usual fascination with technology, coding, games, his typical preoccupations. Then came the whispered phone calls. On one occasion, I caught him in the kitchen, a phone pressed to his ear. He jumped, startled, like a deer caught in a headlight. He quickly tucked the phone into his pocket and exited, leaving me questioning the nature of his conversation. I refrained from pressing the issue, wondering if he might be a trusted friend, or perhaps even a school psychologist. Everyone copes with pain in their own way, I told myself. Subsequently, the garage became Jason's sanctuary, filled with hours spent amidst tools and wires. I envisioned another engineering project, perhaps robots or model airplanes, the usual fare for his pursuits. However, one night, curiosity overcoming me, I ventured inside. What I saw left me stunned. A whiteboard, crammed with diagrams, equations, and flowcharts worthy of a spy thriller, sat alongside a laptop screen displaying lines of code rapidly scrolling across the screen. Jason, at the workbench, was soldering what appeared to be an elaborate listening device. When he noticed me, he sprang up, attempting to conceal the board with his small frame. "What's this mess?" I asked, utterly bewildered. "School project," he replied, too quickly, defensively. "School project? Since when does the 4th grade require surveillance equipment?" His cheeks flushed crimson. I anticipated a confession, but he simply shrugged. "You wouldn't understand." He collected his tools and departed. I stared at the whiteboard, dumbfounded. Whatever it wasn't schoolwork or a hobby. Days turned into weeks, and the strangeness deepened. Jason began asking increasingly specific questions about Laura's finances, probing about additional accounts, and delving into the intricacies of offshore investments. Initially, I dismissed it as mere curiosity, but gradually I recognized a pattern. He was diligently accumulating data. "Why do you need all this information?" I questioned. "Just thinking," he responded, his eyes never leaving his tablet screen. His tone hardened. "This isn't normal. If something's bothering you, talk to me." He finally lifted his gaze, impassive. "I already told you, Dad. I'm fixing things. You'll see." That night, sleep evaded me, consumed by the question of what he meant by fixing things. I wrestled with confronting him, but something held me back. A mixture of exhaustion and a misplaced trust, a lingering belief that he knew what he was doing. The following morning, I found him in the kitchen, engrossed in his laptop. He didn't even notice my presence, his fingers flying across the keyboard with a confident speed that belied his age. "Jason," I called softly, and he froze. "Hi, Dad." The morning words felt stuck in my throat. All I managed was, "Breakfast is ready," and then I walked away. Now I see I should have pressed, demanded answers, but part of me didn't want to know. Another part feared the fallout. The secrecy intensified. Jason clung to his tablet, locked the garage, draped a sheet over the whiteboard. Just as I was starting to convince myself everything was harmless, Laura called. It was late afternoon when my phone rang. Leaning against the kitchen counter, staring out a window that offered no escape, I was still picking up the pieces of my life. Jason, as usual, was absorbed in his tablet. I glanced at the caller ID and my breath caught in my throat. Laura. My first instinct was to let it ring. Why answer? What explanation could she offer for her actions? But curiosity, against my better judgment, won. I answered. "What do you want?" My voice was cold, sharp. I didn't bother with pleasantries. "Alex," she whimpered, her voice fragile and trembling. "Oh my God, Alex, you have to help me." "Help you?" The audacity of it. "Help you? You drained your son's savings and ran off with your boyfriend. How would I help you, Alex? Please, just listen," she begged, her voice dissolving. "Something's gone wrong. Everything went wrong." She leaned against the counter, struggling to keep her balance. "It's Damien. He's disappeared, vanished. All his accounts are frozen, and mine too. I can't access anything. Alex, nothing, and now the police are after me." The words struck me like a slap, but instead of pity, a chilling satisfaction washed over me, devoid of remorse. I wanted to ask what it felt like to be so powerless, so abandoned, in the same way she had abandoned me and Jason. I remained silent, allowing her to unravel on her own. Alex, please. Her voice grew more desperate. I don't know what's happening, who did this, but I need your help. I'm trapped in Miami, with no money, no papers, nothing. Damien said he'd handle everything, and now he's vanished. A true gentleman, I muttered, sarcastically. She didn't respond. Panic choked her. I swear, Alex, I didn't want this to happen. She choked up. I only what? Laura, you've stolen from your own child. You've abandoned your family for a man who clearly doesn't care about you. Is that what you didn't want to happen? Silence. Only her ragged breaths on the other end. I made a mistake, she whispered. A bitter laugh escaped me. A mistake? No, Laura, this was a cruel, selfish choice. Now you're paying the price, Alex. Please, Alex. I have nothing. I don't know what to do. I need you. My mouth opened to respond, but then Jason appeared at the door, tablet in hand. Who is it? He asked, as if it were any ordinary day. I quickly muted the call. It's your mother. His face darkened for a second, then that same calm, almost conniving smile returned. Put it on speakerphone, he ordered. Jason, trust me. Something in his voice wasn't a request, but a command. I obeyed without understanding, pressing the button and leaving the phone on the counter. Laura, I said, hardening my tone. It's on speakerphone. Jason is listening. Her voice softened slightly. Jason, my love, it's Mom. Laura's voice, once a gentle melody, now cracked with desperation. Jason, please, stop this icy chill. I don't want to hear you. Please, she pleaded. I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong. You didn't err, he retorted, his tone cutting through her pleas. You betrayed us. You stole my future and now you call seeking aid? How pathetic. A stunned silence hung in the air, a stark contrast to the previously familiar, comforting voice of a 10-year-old. This was something older, darker. Jason, Laura's voice trembled. I'm your mother. I love you. A harsh, dismissive reply echoed back. Love nothing, he scoffed. If you loved me, you wouldn't have left. You wouldn't have stolen from me. You chose Damien. Now bear the consequences. I have no pity for you, Jason. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Please, Jason, I'm begging you, help me. A chilling smile, radiating an unsettling composure, spread across his face. Relax, Mom, he stated. I've already assisted. Confusion clouded her voice. Assisted with what? Let's just say Damien won't be harming anyone anymore and neither will you. The line went dead. Staring at the silence, my mind swam. What had he done? A 10-year-old's calm assurance, silencing a frantic mother with cryptic pronouncements, left me reeling in a tempest of bewilderment. A torrent of possibilities surged through my mind, each more absurd than the last. Could he possibly have a mere child? I attempted to maintain a steely resolve. Jason, what do you mean by I've assisted? What have you done? He shrugged, treating the conversation like a mundane school assignment. Father, now, both your mother and Damien can't hurt us any longer. A knot tightened in my stomach. Jason, this isn't a game. Tell me exactly what you did. He sighed, speaking with an air of mature resolve rather than youthful immaturity. All right, I'll show you. He gestured for me to follow him to the living room. We settled on the couch. He opened a tablet, revealing a barrage of charts, financial statements, and coded scripts. My pulse quickened. He explained calmly and methodically, as if presenting a science project. Remember how Mother drained my college savings? Well, if she could take it, I could put it back. I remained silent as he displayed a series of transactions. There, in bold relief, were the $50,000 Laura had stolen, now restored to my account. Not merely deposited, but reorganized and invested in a way that left me dizzy with comprehension. How? I stammered. Easy, he replied. Accessing accounts is as simple as tying your shoes. Mother wasn't careful with passwords. I used those saved on her phone to access Damien's accounts too. He was as clumsy as that. I observed skeptically. Stealing from your own son is illegal as well. He shrugged again. This was just the beginning. Jason scrolled through the screen, revealing more. Damien had amassed numerous accounts in his name, false investments, shell corporations, and more. I reported everything to the authorities. Sufficient evidence was compiled to arrest the man. You reported him, I whispered. Yeah, he replied without hesitation. And I also left a trail leading directly to your mother. She helped spend the money. Therefore, she's part of the scheme now. The police are watching her too. Jason, do you understand what you've done? My voice rose in alarm. It's not just about getting the money back. You've put your mother in serious trouble. She put herself there. Nessa difícil situação, ao tomar uma decisão tão severa, ela escolheu Damian em vez de nós. Por que eu deveria sentir pena? Não consegui responder. Ele tinha razão. Laura nos traiu de forma inimaginavelmente cruel. Mas ouvir isso da boca do meu filho, com tal frieza, dilacerou meu peito. Não era apenas um garoto agindo, mas algo mais sombrio. Damian? Perguntei, apreensivo com a resposta. Jason sorriu. Ele está bem por enquanto. Sem dinheiro, sem esconderijo. A polícia congelou tudo. Quando descobrirem, ele estará arruinado e preso. A naturalidade com que ele falava, como se arruinar a vida de alguém fosse esmagar uma formiga, me causou arrepios. Jason, questionei. Por que não me contou antes? Por que não deixou que eu resolvesse? Ele me encarou, sua expressão repentinamente mais suave. Porque eu sabia que você não faria nada. Você deixaria ela escapar, porque é muito bom demais. Alguém precisava pará-la, pai. Alguém precisava nos proteger. Senti como se o chão tivesse desaparecido sob meus pés. Meu filho, meu garoto doce e brilhante, decidiu não só corrigir nossa situação, mas vingar-se de um jeito que eu jamais poderia imaginar. Não sabia se me orgulhava de sua engenhosidade ou se me aterrorizava com as implicações disso. Jason, disse depois de um longo silêncio, não tenho certeza se esse é o jeito certo de lidar com as coisas. Ele inclinou a cabeça, mantendo a serenidade. Talvez não, mas funcionou. Sentei-me no sofá, passando a mão pelos cabelos, sem saber o que dizer ou sentir. Meu filho fez o que eu não consegui. Assumiu o controle de uma situação sem saída e virou o jogo. Mas a que preço? Jason fechou o tablet e me encarou com aquela confiança perturbadora. Relaxa, pai. Agora vai ficar tudo bem. Enquanto o observava, não conseguia afastar a sensação de que estar tudo bem estava longe de ser a realidade. Não dormi quase nada após a revelação de Jason. O que ele fez girava em minha mente como um filme preso em um loop. Um garoto de 10 anos arquitetou um plano tão intrincado e devastador que arruinou completamente a vida de um homem e de uma mulher adultos. E o pior, ele não demonstrava o menor sinal de culpa. Prometi a mim mesmo conversar com ele de manhã, mas a vida tinha outros planos. O telefone tocou novamente. Era Laura. Meu impulso foi ignorá-la, mas uma parte masoquista desejava ouvi-la. Alô? Resmunguei sem educação. Alex, por favor, ela soluçou. Eu preciso da sua ajuda. Eu estou implorando. A voz era irreconhecível. A mulher confiante que saiu de nossas vidas sem olhar para trás havia desaparecido. Em seu lugar, alguém desesperado e quebrado. Você tem coragem de ligar? Disse friamente. As palavras saíram em um atropelo. A polícia está atrás de mim. Congelaram todas as minhas contas. Damian desapareceu. Não sei onde ele está. Estou presa, Alex. Sem dinheiro. Sem lugar para ficar. E a culpa é minha. Sua voz subiu em um lamento. Alex, por favor. Eu sei que estraguei tudo. Sei que machuquei você e o Jason. Mas eu não mereço isso. Não mereço ficar sem nada. Soltei uma risada amarga. Você esvaziou a poupança do nosso filho, fugiu com o namorado e agora chora porque as consequências chegaram. Você merece cada segundo disso. Silêncio. Apenas a respiração trêmula dela. Eu não achei que fosse ficar tão ruim, sussurrou. Você não pensou, né? Estava muito ocupada se divertindo com o Damian. Laura, distraught and desperate, called Alex, pleading for help. She portrayed herself as a victim, claiming Alex owed her something. I can't do anything for you, Alex replied curtly. Laura insisted he contact the police, blaming Damian for everything, claiming her deception was a necessary act to save him. Alex, weary of the situation, declared he was tired of cleaning up Laura's messes. Laura's voice cracked as she begged Alex to intervene, referencing Jason and implying that abandoning her would harm him. Rosny calmly but pointedly chided Alex for his newfound maternal concern, highlighting the stark contrast to his past actions. Laura apologized, expressing a longing for happiness, but Alex was unmoved. He felt betrayed by the audacity of her actions. He pointedly confronted her about her decision to abandon her family, flee with a man, and leave him with the fallout of her choices. Laura's self-pitying accusations were met with icy indifference, an empty promise of happiness replaced with a bleak silence. Alex calmly informed her that he was not abandoning her, only releasing her to face the consequences of her actions. He ended the call, leaving Laura in her predicament. As he turned, Jason stood in the doorway, his expression a mixture of calm and calculation. Alex, exhausted, felt he had failed to find a solution to Laura's problem. He tried to explain his unwillingness to abandon her to Jason, who, despite Alex's attempts to justify his actions, interpreted it as a sign of weakness. Jason's unyielding gaze and decisive stance solidified the feeling that he viewed the situation differently than Alex. Alex's concerns for Jason grew, as he realized Jason held harsh judgment. He questioned the maturity of Jason's perspective, acknowledging that a 10-year-old shouldn't contemplate matters of this nature. Alex, frustrated, concluded that Damien, fueled by a relentless desire to retaliate, wouldn't back down from conflict. His actions suggested a dangerous and unyielding approach. Alex received an unexpected call from an unknown number, initially thinking it was the police finally catching Damien. Instead, it was Damien, his voice laced with venomous malice, taunting Alex about his perceived cleverness. Damien's pride was evident in his mocking tones, and his assertion that Alex was merely hindering his freedom. Damien claimed that Alex and his son were intent on ruining his life, thereby showcasing his disregard for their consequences. Alex, confronted with the threat and his own son's calmness, confronted the situation directly. Alex reminded Damien of the severity of the situation, recognizing the threat Damien posed to his family. Damien's arrogance, though, persisted, as he declared that his intentions were far more substantial than simple revenge. He revealed the extent of his calculated plans and the details he'd meticulously observed about Alex, threatening to uncover his secrets and use his knowledge against him. The realization of Damien's relentless determination chilled Alex to the core, confirming his dangerous intentions and the dire possibility of a full-blown confrontation. The realization that Damien had the capacity to inflict harm on his child paralyzed Alex. His voice, though shaky, conveyed the urgency of the threat he faced. Alex forcefully demanded that Damien stay away from his son, underscoring the profound importance of the child's safety. My hacker son, Jason, targeted me again. I abruptly disconnected the call, my hands trembling. Standing there, I struggled to comprehend the situation. "Who's Damien?" I asked, my voice a strained whisper. Jason, startlingly calm, replied, "He knows what you did and now he's threatening us." Jason remained unfazed, his tone icy. "Let him try," he declared. My apprehension grew. This wasn't a game. I knelt before him, recognizing the inherent danger. "We need to call the police." "The police won't do anything until it's too late," Jason countered firmly. "I'll handle this." I tried arguing, pointing out that this was beyond his capabilities, that it was too much for a 10-year-old. But his gaze silenced me. It wasn't the gaze of a frightened child, but of someone who had made a decision and wouldn't back down. That night, Jason vanished once more, disappearing into the garage and locking the door behind him. Powerless to stop him, I wandered through the house, replaying Damien's words in my mind. Every sound outside sent shivers down my spine. Every shadow seemed menacing. Only after midnight did Jason reappear. Exhausted, yet satisfied, a slight smile played on his lips. "It's done," he simply stated. "What's done?" I inquired, my stomach twisting with dread. He handed me a tablet, and my heart plummeted as I scanned the screen. He had tracked Damien's location using GPS spoofing software, but he had gone further. He hacked Damien's disposable phone and documented every threatening message. To seal the deal, he had submitted an anonymous police report with all the evidence needed to arrest him. "Jason?" I stammered, overwhelmed with a mixture of shock and awe. "You realize what you just did?" I stopped him. He replied matter-of-factly, "Now he can't hurt us." We desperately wanted to believe that this was the end of it all, that Damien would be apprehended and we'd finally be safe. But deep down, I knew better. People like Damien don't give up easily. The following morning, a brick pierced the front window, a note affixed to it, a torrent of anger. "This isn't over," it declared. Jason found it before me, crumpled the paper, and tossed it in the trash without a word. "Maybe we should leave," I suggested cautiously. "Go to a safe place until the dust settles." His gaze remained unwavering. "We don't need to run," he said. "I have another move." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Another move?" He smirked, a small, icy smile that sent a chill down my spine. "You'll see," he said, as if the entire chaos were merely a game he was determined to win. But it wasn't a game to me. I spent the night, painstakingly repairing the broken window, imagining the next projectile might be far worse. 2 days dragged on, consumed by a tense silence. Jason maintained a routine as if nothing extraordinary had transpired, but I perceived the gears turning in his mind. I dared not ask about his plan. A part of me didn't want to know. Perhaps by staying uninvolved, I could pretend my 10-year-old son wasn't engaged in a battle of wits against an adult criminal. Then, late at night, the doorbell rang. My stomach dropped. No one had visited since the brick incident, and I wasn't expecting company. Jason, his eyes still fixed on the tablet, remained unresponsive. "Don't answer," I whispered instinctively. He didn't reply, but instead peered through the peephole. Without hesitation, he unlocked and flung open the door. Damien, a very different man than the confident figure from photos with Laura, now appeared desperate and menacing, his face contorted with hatred, eyes blazing red. A palpable fury, twice as intense as before, radiated from him. He burst into the doorway, demanding entry. I stepped forward, heart hammering, urging him to leave. My voice, though firm, wavered. Damien scoffed, declaring he would not depart until the boy explained how he had ruined his life. To my horror, Jason, calm and almost bored, crossed his arms, surveying Damien from a position of clear superiority. "You brought this upon yourself," he stated flatly. Damien's jaw clenched. "Listen here, you're broke," Jason interrupted with cutting precision. "Wanted in 3 states, and now you're threatening me and my father." I reached for Jason, but he evaded my grasp. "Jason," I whispered, but he remained unyielding. "You shouldn't have come. It only worsens your situation," he declared coldly. Damien let out a harsh laugh. "Worsen it? Boy, I have nothing left to lose. Therein lies your mistake," Jason countered with a chillingly small smile that sent a shiver down my spine. He slipped a hand into his pocket, pulling out an unfamiliar device. With a button press, Damien's phone began vibrating. He frowned at the rapidly appearing files. "What in the world is this?" he growled. "Proof!" Jason declared, his eyes scanning the screen. Disbelief gave way to panic. "Proof that you are a threat," Jason continued. "Every message, every call, every intimidation. You've left a trail, and now the police have everything." Damien's face flushed crimson. "You're bluffing," he exclaimed. Jason tilted his head. "Perhaps." That's when I realized Jason hadn't just gathered evidence, he had meticulously constructed a trap. Damien's phone wasn't simply receiving files, it was live streaming them directly to the local precinct. The boy had transformed the criminal's threats into evidence for his arrest. Damien lunged, consumed by rage, but before he could act, the wail of sirens filled the air. Jason remained unmoved. "They've come for you," he calmly stated. Damien froze, looking out the window at the flashing blue and red lights. He turned back to Jason, alternating between fury and panic. "This isn't over." "It is," Jason replied, his voice cold as ice. Police officers stormed in, weapons drawn. Damien reacted, understanding his situation was hopeless. He was in their grasp. As they led him away, he remained immobile, struggling to process the upheaval. Jason turned to me, his expression unreadable. "I told you I had one more trick up my sleeve," he whispered. My voice trembled. "Do you have any idea of the danger? He could have hurt you, could have hurt us both, but he didn't." Jason responded with an objective tone. "And now he's gone." I wanted to scream, to demand explanations, to make him understand that none of this was normal. But all I could do was stare at the boy who had just defeated an adult criminal. He raised his gaze, weary but calm. "We're safe, Dad." As the police car disappeared down the street, a profound sense of unease lingered. Nothing felt secure. The house fell silent, the threat and fear seemingly vanishing instantly, yet the silence felt oppressive. Unanswered questions weighed heavy in the air. I imagined this was the end, that Damien was gone from our lives, that Jason had returned to normalcy, and I could finally rebuild what remained of our family. Then, Laura called again. I recognized the number immediately. Blocking her primary line wouldn't deter her. She'd find another way to reach me. I considered ignoring it. Curiosity, a driving force, compelled me to hear her voice. "Now?" I asked, my tone as cold as ice. Her voice barely emerged, raspy and weak, like someone deprived of sleep for days. "Alex," yet my words faltered. I had no time for lament. Did you call to ask for money or forgiveness? I cut her off, my breath hitching. I don't want your money, she whispered. I don't even know what I want. This has caught me off guard, for the first time since this nightmare began. There is no arrogance, no victimhood, only raw defeat. Then why did you call? I'm truly in trouble, Alex. Serious trouble. Oh no, I retorted sarcastically. She ignored my tone. The police. They're investigating me, suspecting my involvement in Music Damien's schemes. I wasn't the instigator, yet they're leaving the accusation hanging. The fifth part of the charge. She hesitated. My understanding, however, was too late. I was already entangled, consumed. Now they're freezing my accounts, confiscating my assets. I have nothing, Alex, nothing. We're broke. Then I countered. Or did you forget you emptied Jason's college savings to fuel your escapades? I was foolish. Her voice cracked. I thought Damien loved me, that he would take care of me. A bitter laugh escaped me. So, how's this love working out? Silence spoke louder than any apology. Why did you call, Laura? I asked again, my tone softening, yet firm. Because you and Jason are all I have left, she whispered. The words struck me like a punch, not of emotion, but of utter disillusionment. You don't have us, I replied, resolute. You lost us the instant you chose Damien. Alex, please, she pleaded, her voice strained. I made a mistake, but I'm still Jason's mother. I just need a second chance. A second chance? I scoffed. Laura, this isn't a minor lapse. You stole your own son, abandoning him for a man you barely knew. Now that the fairy tale has crumbled, you want to crawl back? She cried into the phone, yet I remained unyielding. Alex, I have nowhere to go. Desperation echoes in every syllable. This is your problem, and Jason's. He doesn't deserve to have you around. Jason doesn't need you. I spoke frankly. You've done more for this family in 2 weeks than you have in your entire life. Without your help, we don't need you. Silence. I thought the line had been cut, but a whisper followed. So, this is it. You'll turn your back on me? You turned yours first, I stated. Now reap what you sow. Only her trembling breath remained before the line died. Turning, I saw Jason standing at the door, impassive. His mother. He wanted to return, but you said no. He shook his head, content. She doesn't deserve it. I wanted to say forgiveness is part of the path, but seeing that assured expression, I swallowed my words. Perhaps he was right. Some things are unforgivable. In the following days, I replayed everything Jason had done. It was impossible not to admire his brilliance. A 10-year-old boy who dismantled a criminal scheme, saved the family from ruin, and maintained composure like he was playing chess. A game only he could see. Impressive, undeniably. Yet, unsettling. Jason didn't react like a child. There was no fear, only calculation, strategy, precision, and behind it all, a coldness that bothered me. One night, sitting on the couch facing the window's cardboard, he entered. Dad, are you angry with me? My surprise was evident. Angry? Why? For everything I've done. Damien's punishment for withholding a secret prompted a harsh response from Jason. What you did, I sighed, isn't something a 10-year-old should do, or anyone, really. But I did, Jason retorted, unwavering. And it worked. It worked, yes, I conceded. But it's not just about success. It's about the meaning behind it. He furrowed his brow. What meaning? It wasn't healthy. You shouldn't have to think or act that way. You're just a boy. I did what needed to be done, I countered. If I hadn't, who would have stopped them? He implied it was my responsibility, yet I knew he was right. A pang of pain and anger shot through me. His presence filled the void, a wound that ached more than anything. You're brilliant, Jason, I admitted. More than I'll ever be, but you're still my son. I have to protect you. He looked at me, searching my eyes. What if you can't? What if it depends on me? I had no answer. He had already saved us, but at what cost? Weeks passed, a struggle to regain composure. Damien was behind bars, Laura consumed by her own turmoil. The house was quiet, a fragile piece like thin glass. One afternoon, I found Jason in the garage, meticulously working on a sophisticated drone, wires and circuits meticulously aligned. Hey, Dad, he smiled. You're always building something, aren't you? Keeps my head occupied, I said carefully. It's good, but you don't have to fix everything all the time. Sometimes it's okay to let things be. He soldered a wire, his hands firm, then set down the iron and met my gaze. I don't know how to do that. If something's broken, I need to fix it. If there's a problem, I have to solve it. That's just how I think. He meant it wasn't his burden, but it would be futile. Jason viewed the world differently. Full stop. You have a gift, I acknowledged, but it's also a responsibility. You'll have to choose how to use it and whom to trust. I know, he murmured, thoughtful. I lingered, my chest constricted by a mixture of pride and fear. Brilliance, like a double-edged sword, can build or destroy. I prayed that as he grew, he would choose construction. That night, lying in bed, I recalled Laura's final words. You've raised a son who not only survives, but conquers. But be careful, Alex. One day his heart might grow too cold to save. I didn't want to believe it, but the seed was planted. Jason wasn't just a survivor. He was a force of nature. While I was filled with pride, I feared that his unbridled spirit might lead him down paths I couldn't reach. For now, we had each other, and I would do the impossible to protect us both.